Imagine you wake up one morning and the world outside your window has changed. The streets are quiet, too quiet. The usual sounds of traffic and life are gone, replaced by an uneasy silence. Curfews are in effect, checkpoints are on the corners, and moving around freely is no longer an option. What do? How do you get from where you are to where you need to be, to check on family, to get supplies, to get to a safer place, without being seen? This isn't about fighting back. This is about being invisible. It's a skill set that hopefully you'll never ever need. But knowledge is weightless, and it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. If you're serious about being prepared for any situation, and I mean truly prepared, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss these deep dives. Today we're doing a theoretical exploration of how to navigate a controlled city, unseen, and for a complete roadmap on getting ready for the unexpected, from power outages to major emergencies, pick up my new book, Before It All Falls Apart, the emergency prep manual for the real world, available on Amazon. The link is in the description. Now, a very important disclaimer before we begin. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is a theoretical exercise. In any real-world emergency, you must obey all laws and follow the instructions of official authorities. Your safety depends on it. With that said, let's explore the art of becoming a ghost. So the first and most important rule of moving unseen is that the real work happens before you even take your first step out the door. Running out into a changed world without a plan is the fastest way to get into trouble. You have to be smart. And that starts with understanding what you're up against. Think of it like a game of chess. You would never make a move without looking at the board and seeing where your opponent's pieces are. Who is actually enforcing the rules on the street? Are they professional soldiers who are all business and follow their training to the letter? Or are they more like local guard units who might know the area better, but might also be less disciplined or more prone to getting bored? There's a big difference in how you'd approach moving around them. The pros might be tougher, but they're also predictable because they stick to the book. The local guys might be more relaxed, but they also know that the old shortcut through the park is a popular spot. You need to watch and learn their personality. Look for signs of what they call garrison mentality or complacency setting in after the first few days. That's your opportunity. Are the guards clustering together to talk instead of scanning their zones? Are they staying in their warm trucks instead of walking their routes? Are they staring at their phones when they think no one is watching? Those are all signs of a security system that's getting lazy, and you can use that. Then you have to think about their toys. Most official groups will have night vision, which turns a dark night into a green-tinted day for them. That means true darkness, like in a basement or a deep shadow where no light can reach, is your only real friend at night. An even bigger problem is thermal cameras. These things don't see light. They see heat. To them, your warm body glows like a Christmas tree against a cool background. They can be on trucks, on poles, or even on a drone flying silently overhead. These flying eyes, or drones, are a huge challenge. They can hover over a neighborhood and watch everything. You have to get used to listening for their faint, high-pitched buzz and always think about what's above you. The best way to beat all this tech is to learn the rhythm of the people using it. For a couple of days, your only job is to watch from a safe place. Where do they patrol? When do they patrol? Do they take the same route every time? Or do they mix it up? Even if they try to be random, humans fall into patterns. You'll start to see them. The most important time to watch is when they change shifts. Usually around 6 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 10 at night. For a few minutes during that changeover, everyone is a little distracted, and that's a window of opportunity. You also need to become a super spy in your own town. Get real physical maps. Don't rely on your phone, which can be tracked or just run out of battery. You want a street map, sure, but also a topographical map that shows you hills and valleys, because that tells you who can see what from where. The secret weapon, though, is a utility map. A map of the city's storm drains and sewer systems. Here's a pro tip, though. Also look for historical maps of your city. Old maps can show forgotten tunnels, streams that were paved over but still have culverts, or old building foundations that aren't on modern maps. These can be your secret highways, but they are incredibly dangerous. We'll talk more on that later. Once you have your maps, you mark them up with everything you've learned. Patrol routes, camera locations, safe spots, danger zones. Your map becomes your brain. As for your gear, you have to rethink your backpack. This isn't a camping trip. The goal is to blend in, to be the gray man. That means wearing boring, muted colors like gray, dark blue, or brown. It also means avoiding anything that makes you look like a prepper or a survivor. Ditch the military-style backpack with all the webbing and patches on it. That just screams, I have cool stuff in my bag and I know what I'm doing, which makes you an instant target for questioning. You want to look like any other person on the street who just got caught up in things. Your clothes should also be quiet. Fleece is great. Swishy nylon pants are terrible. Think about every little noise. Put tape around your metal zipper pulls so they don't jingle. Your backpack should have the essentials: water and a filter, high-energy food that doesn't smell, a first aid kit, and some very specific tools. Not a giant toolbox, but smart things. A small pry bar can open a stuck window. A special four-way key, which you can find online, can open utility panels and water spigots all over the city. A good multi-tool is a must, and everything, especially your phone, needs to go into a Faraday bag. This is a special bag that blocks all signals so your phone can't be tracked. It's like a cone of silence for your electronics. You only take it out when you're in a safe place and absolutely need it. Preparation is about thinking through the problems before they happen, so when it's time to move, all you have to do is follow the plan. Once you've done your homework, it's time to think about the actual movement. This is a craft, an art form. It's not about being fast, it's about being deliberate and invisible. Your route is everything. You should never, ever have just one route to get somewhere. You need to think in layers, like a video game with multiple ways to solve a level. This is what some people call a PACE plan. It stands for primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. Your primary route is your best-case scenario path. It's the one you've planned that has the most cover and the fewest dangers. Your alternate route is a completely different path you can switch to if your primary route is blocked, say by a surprise checkpoint. Your contingency plan isn't a route, but it's what you do when something goes wrong. It's knowing where the closest hiding spot or bolt hole is at all times so you can disappear and wait for things to calm down. And your emergency plan is your last-ditch get-out-of-Dodge plan to a long-term safe location if the whole area becomes compromised. When you're planning these routes, you have to stop thinking in two dimensions. The city isn't a flat map, it's a three-dimensional maze. You have three layers to work with. The first is subterranean, or underground. This means storm drains and service tunnels. The huge advantage is that you are completely hidden from eyes in the sky. The massive disadvantage is that they are dangerous. They can have bad air, they can flood in an instant if it rains, and it's easy to get lost in the dark. This is an expert-level option and should only be used for short, pre-scouted distances. The next layer is the surface, which is where most movement happens. But you have to use it differently. Streets are no longer for walking down. They are dangerous open spaces you need to cross as quickly as possible. Your highways are the alleys, the backyards, the shadows behind buildings. You want to avoid fatal funnels, which are places that are easy to watch and hard to escape, like bridges or underpasses. Look for ways to use the city's own rhythm to your advantage. For instance, does a city bus run on a predictable schedule? You can time your crossing of a wide street with the moment the bus passes, using it as a huge moving wall of cover. The third layer is vertical rooftops. Moving across rooftops can let you bypass all the problems on the ground, but you are incredibly exposed to anyone watching from another tall building or, more likely, a drone. You also stick out like a sore thumb against the sky, especially at dawn or dusk. So, once you have your layered routes, you have to master how to walk them. Timing is key. The best time to move is usually in that sleepy, pre-dawn window, between about 3 and 5 in the morning. People's bodies are naturally at their lowest point, and even guards are less alert. And believe it or not, bad weather is your best friend. Heavy rain or thick fog makes it much harder for cameras to see and for people to hear. It also keeps most folks inside, giving you more freedom. When you move, don't just walk at a steady pace. Move in short bursts. Walk for 5 seconds, then stop behind some cover for 25 seconds. Listen, look, smell. Speaking of smell, that's a sense people forget about. Don't be the person cooking bacon when the wind can carry that smell for 6 blocks, acting like a dinner bell for anyone hungry. Even the smell of recently disturbed damp earth from opening a manhole cover can give you away. This stop-and-go rhythm is much harder for the human eye to pick up than a constant steady movement. Master the shadows. Know how they fall at different times of night and plan your route to connect them, like a river of darkness. If you must use a light, it should be a headlamp with a red filter. Red light doesn't ruin your natural night vision as much as white light, and it's much harder to see from a distance. And always be aware of your silhouette. Never stand on top of a hill or a roof where you're outlined against the sky. When you look around a corner, don't just poke your head out. That's a perfect human-shaped target. You slowly slice the pie, revealing only a tiny bit of yourself at a time to clear the new area. Be quiet. Test your gear for noise before you leave. Walk on the balls of your feet, rolling onto your heel, and use the city's own sounds to cover your own. The loud hum of a commercial HVAC unit can completely mask the sound of you prying open a nearby door. The rumble of a generator, a gust of wind, these are your personal sound cancelers. Okay, so you've got the basics of prep and movement down. You know how to plan a route and how to move quietly. Now let's talk about some of the next level strategies for dealing with a world where you're constantly being watched, not just by people, but by technology. You have to assume that at some point, someone might be watching you specifically. So how do you know if you have a tail? You can't just turn around and look. You have to do it cleverly. You need to take what's called a surveillance detection route, or an SDR. This is basically a pre-planned, weird route you take that forces anyone following you to reveal themselves. Let me paint a picture for you. You walk 2 blocks down Main Street, turn right onto Oak, and then immediately stop at a corner store and pretend to read the headlines on the newspapers outside for a full 30 seconds. Then you turn around and walk back the way you came on Oak Street. A normal person would never do that. So anyone who makes that same awkward U-turn a few seconds after you do is very, very interested in where you're going. If you do spot a tail, the most important thing is not to let them know you've seen them. You just abort your mission, follow one of your contingency plans, and melt away to try again another day. Now, beating technology is a different game. We talked about thermal cameras that see heat. A clever trick to confuse them is to use a decoy. A simple saline pouch or a hand warmer heated up and attached to your ankle can create a hotter, more noticeable spot for a camera to focus on, potentially distracting it from the larger shape of your body. Glass buildings are also your friends here because they can act like thermal mirrors, reflecting your heat signature and confusing the image. And when it comes to drones, remember that they run on batteries. If you can watch them long enough, you'll learn their flight times. They might fly for 25 minutes, then have to go back and charge for an hour. That downtime is your window to cross an open area. You can also use the city itself to beat them. Ducking into a subway entrance or a deep stairwell can make their cameras lose lock because they often have trouble looking straight down into a void. Now, all these tricks are great, but sometimes your biggest challenge is a face-to-face encounter with a guard at a checkpoint. You need to have a story ready to go. This isn't just a simple lie. It's a role you have to play. Your story should be simple, believable, and make you seem harmless, and maybe even a little pathetic. Not, "I'm a super secret spy," but "I'm so sorry, my mom is sick a few blocks away and I'm trying to get her some medicine." It helps to have a prop, like an empty prescription bottle. You also need a reason for failure. What if you're stopped on the way back? Your story needs a second chapter. "They were closed," or "the pharmacy was looted, I couldn't get it." This makes your story more robust. You have to act the part too. Look a little scared, a little confused. Don't make direct eye contact for too long, as that can seem challenging. The goal is to be someone who is not worth the paperwork to detain. This type of real-world strategy is something I cover extensively in my book. It's not just about gear, it's about the mindset and the soft skills that keep you safe. If you want to learn more about developing that mindset, pick up my new book, Before It All Falls Apart, The Emergency Prep Manual for the Real World, available on Amazon. The link is in the description. One last advanced threat to consider is patrol dogs. A dog's nose is 1,000,000 times better than ours, and it's a serious challenge. They track you by smelling the scent particles you leave in the air, and by following the trail of crushed plants and smells on the ground where you walked. Your best defense is water. If you can walk through a stream or a large fountain for a good distance, it can wash your scent trail away. Moving over hard concrete holds less scent than walking on grass, and getting off the ground entirely, by climbing onto a roof or up a fire escape, is the surest way to beat a ground-tracking dog. It's all about thinking what trail you're leaving behind, not just for eyes, but for noses too. No matter how well you plan, no matter how skilled you are, things can always go wrong. Your success isn't measured by whether you can avoid all problems, but by how you react when a problem finds you. This is where your contingency planning becomes the most important thing in the world. So, let's say you're moving down an alley and you hear shouting. A patrol has spotted you. What do? The first immediate instinctual action must be to break their line of sight. That means getting behind something solid, a wall, a dumpster, a car, right now. The moment they can't see you, you have a chance. Your next move, if you can, is to create a distraction. Throw a rock down a different alley to make a noise over there. If you have a moment, you can create something bigger. The goal is to make them look in the wrong direction, even for just a few seconds, to give you time to move. And when you move, you don't just run blindly down the street. You use that three-dimensional maze we talked about. You go up a fire escape, you go down into a basement, you kick in a door and run through a building. A multi-story apartment building is one of the best escape routes there is. It's a maze of hallways, apartments, and stairwells, and it's incredibly difficult for a small group to search effectively. And while you're doing this, you have to manage the adrenaline dump that's flooding your system. You need to control your breathing. Practice something called box breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. Doing this can slow your heart rate and fight off the tunnel vision that adrenaline causes, letting you think clearly when you need it most. But all of this fleeing has to have a purpose. You aren't just running away, you are running to somewhere. You are running to that pre-planned hidey hole, that bolt hole that you identified for this section of your route. It could be an abandoned garage, a thick patch of bushes in a park, or a crawl space you found earlier. You get there, you get quiet, and you wait. You let the adrenaline fade, and you wait for the search to die down, which could take hours. This whole system relies on having those safe spots and supplies ready. That means you need to think about caches and safe houses. A cache is just a hidden stash of supplies. You can bury a waterproof tube, like a piece of PVC pipe with screw-on caps, with some food, water, batteries, and a medical kit inside. You don't want one big stash. You want several small ones spread out along your potential routes. You hide them in places that are easy for you to remember, but totally unremarkable to anyone else. A safe house is a more permanent place to lay low. It could be the home of a trusted friend or an abandoned apartment you've made secure. But you have to be so careful when vetting it. It's not just about strong locks. You have to watch the location first. Are there unmarked cars that sit there for hours? Are there new utility workers poking around where no work is being done? These could be signs the location is already being watched. The location can't be connected to you in any way. It needs to have more than one way in and out, and anyone there must be someone you would trust with your life, because that's what you're doing. Perhaps the most critical part of your contingency planning is being your own medic. In a situation like this, hospitals might be overwhelmed or inaccessible. A simple cut can get infected and become a life-threatening problem. You need to have a good first aid kit, but more importantly, you need to know how to use it. You need to know how to stop bleeding, how to clean a wound, and how to recognize the signs of infection. If you rely on specific medications like insulin or blood pressure medicine, you need to have a plan for how you'll get more when your supply runs out, which is a huge challenge in itself. It's about taking responsibility for your own well-being when the normal systems we rely on are gone. So, as we wrap this up, it's clear that moving through a complex urban environment under difficult conditions is less about physical strength and more about knowledge, discipline, and creativity. It's about understanding the world around you, the people, the technology, the very rhythm of the streets, and using that understanding to your advantage. It's about meticulous preparation, from the maps you study to the tape you wrap around your zippers. It's about the quiet discipline of your movement, being as silent as a cat and as patient as a stone. And most of all, it's about being adaptable, because no plan ever goes perfectly. You have to be able to think on your feet, to see a problem and instantly know your options, and to execute your contingency plan without hesitation. This has been a deep, theoretical dive into a very serious topic. I want to stress again that this is an educational exercise designed to make you think about awareness and preparation in a different way. In any real situation, your first and best course of action is always to follow the guidance of the lawful authorities. Your safety and the safety of those around you is what matters most. If this kind of deep dive preparedness is valuable to you, if you believe that thinking through these scenarios makes you better equipped for any emergency, big or small, then make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have those notifications turned on. We go deep here because the real world can be complicated and simple answers aren't always enough. For a complete guide that you can hold in your hands that covers everything from building a 72-hour kit to long-term sustainability and the very skills we've talked about today, I encourage you to pick up my new book, Before It All Falls Apart, The Emergency Prep Manual for the Real World. It's available now on Amazon and the link is right down in the description. Thank you for watching. Stay smart, stay safe, and stay prepared.